Gentleman's time has expired. The gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Nichols, recognized.
All right. Thanks, Chair Powell, for being here with us today. Back in 1995, I worked here in Congress as an intern for Dick Gephardt. I was in his press office, and we had newspapers, where my job would be to clip out the articles and paste them on a sheet. But when I was here in 95, the Grateful Dead were playing. It was one of Jerry Garcia's last concerts, and I was just so disappointed that I missed that concert. But was excited to see that from public reporting that you were at the most recent Dead and Company show. I've been to this version with John Mayer and enjoyed it, but we weren't here. How was the show? Did you like it?
Oh, it was terrific. What can I say? So it was great. I've been a Grateful Dead fan for 50 years. So,
well, I've found one universal truth that I like people who like the Grateful Dead. So having said that, I have limited time. But do you want any time to go back to some of the questions that you had? You want to elaborate on anything that you've said here so far today?
You're very kind to offer, but I'm fine with the answers I've given so far, I believe.
Good. Well, back to that show. A lot of people there in Virginia, and like my constituents, they're very concerned about this economy. They're worried about the cost of groceries, rising inflation, interest rates going up, and when we do these hearings, it's always big news. The things you say, move markets and are very important. But Fed speak is just so hard for my constituents and the American people to understand. What can you tell the American people who are concerned about the economy in a way that they can really understand where this economy really is heading?
So I guess I would say this economy is very strong, and what's driving it now is just a very strong labor market. There's still significant demand for workers. There are more job openings than there are unemployed people. Wages are moving up, and that's really what's driving the economy forward. People's disposable incomes are coming up. Inflation is moving down gradually. The thing that troubles people, and I think the thing that accounts for the surveys you see where despite a historically strong labor market, people are still concerned about the economy, it's really inflation. So this is our job, is to bring inflation down. The way we do it is by raising interest rates, and while that can be painful, what it does is it gradually slows down demand so that supply and demand can get back into alignment, and so that we can have inflation running at 2% and people can get on with their lives and basically not have to think about inflation. That's what the definition of price stability from one standpoint is, just that people can live their daily lives without thinking about inflation all the time. We want to get back to that place. And we're on a journey to get there. We have quite a ways to go, but we're making progress.
And I've always wondered this, and I think there's a pretty simple answer, but if Congress was in charge of setting interest rates and it became a political thing, do you think that's something that we could handle as a legislative body?
I wouldn't want to comment on that.
That's a safe answer. All right. And I do want to just join on the chorus with a lot of my colleagues on both sides of the aisle here about capital requirements for banks. I brought this issue up with Vice Chair Barr, with Mickey Bowman, and in your written questions for the last time you were here, I didn't get a chance to ask questions because my seniority here on the committee. But you said you answered in writing, and you said we've got to be mindful of the trade-offs associated with adjusting capital levels, as it could, quote unquote, cause banks to reduce the availability of credit or to pass higher costs of credit on to consumers, end quote. And you also said that, quote, capital and liquidity levels at our largest, most systemically important banks are at multi-decade highs, end quote. My constituents sent me here to lower costs for working families, so increasing borrowing costs really hits them hard. As the Fed considers new capital requirements, how do you intend to strike that balance between the trade-off that you talked about in your written response?
So that is the balance. You said it very well. So stronger capital requirements mean we have a stronger banking system, means it's more resilient to downturns and crises and things like that, so banks can continue to lend during even stressful times. And so that's very important, and we put a high value on that. And yet, of course, we know that at the margin, the cost of cost of capital goes up for banks and the cost of credit will go up. So it's a balancing thing. And there isn't any one simple model or answer, so you just have to make a judgment call based on that. And that's what we'll be doing as these proposals are made and then assessed.
Thank you. And I yield back.